introduction, Amanda. Hi, everyone. I wish I could see your faces and know where you're coming from, but I hope the information I have to share is helpful to you as you learn more about Farm to School. Quick apologies. I'm working from a new remote setting today, and I have every light on. I'm just not able to get the great lighting here on a cloudy day. But hopefully you can see and hear me well. As Amanda said, I work for Ohio State University Extension. I'm a state level field specialist, and I've been heading up Ohio Farm to School since 2013. Um, Certainly don't do it alone. We have many state partners that I'll be highlighting throughout this presentation. So a lot of people ask, what is Farm to School? How do I join Farm to School? And Farm to School is really a series of activities, initiatives all around three things: communities, cafeterias, and classrooms. I like to say that we support schools to better purchase, serve, and teach kids about local foods. And teaching kids about local foods involves all kinds of hands-on learning experiences, including school gardens, to teach kids where foods come from, how do they grow, where do they grow, what does it take to grow them, who grows them, how do the foods get from where they grow to where the kids are, and why should they care about all that? And of course, engage them in uh, trying new foods, tasting new foods, eating a broad range of foods um, to uh, to ultimately lead them to healthier diets lifelong. So with that, I'm going to be sharing updates about all the progress and momentum we have across our state and how Farm to School is a triple win. When we connect schools with local foods, communities win with stronger economies, farmers win, and kids and families win. So with that, I thought I'd start out by talking about, what's the potential in the state of Ohio in terms of schools and early care and education sites purchasing local. This is data from from the USDA's most recent Farm to School census. It relates to the 2022-2023 school year. And they report that for Ohio, there are over 1,200 school food authorities. A school food authority is an organization that is on the USDA school breakfast and lunch program. And of the 1,247 school food authorities in Ohio, about half of those are what you think of as a traditional public school district. But about half are other entities, private schools, other organizations that administer those USDA meal programs. What does that translate to in terms of the number of school buildings? So 3,652 schools as of that census. Nearly 2 million students reached through those school food authorities. And we know from the census results that at least 827 are participating in some way in Farm to School, so 66%, which is up significantly from the first Farm to School census that was done years before that. And we'll talk about that. So 3,652 school food authorities sites, schools. And then in terms of early care and education sites in Ohio, this is based on data from the Farm to Early Care and Education Survey we implemented. The Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services provided us a list of 5,950 sites, and Ohio Department of Education was administering 1,109 sites. So over 7,000 early care and education sites. It's down a bit since then, but it's close. So we can say roughly 10,000 sites, schools and early care and education sites with the potential of purchasing and serving kids local food. So that is really significant in Ohio. Taking a look at the first pillar, the first component of Farm to School, supporting the purchasing of local foods. We have a lot of partners that we work with. Of course, Ohio State University Extension. It has an office located in each of the 88 counties across Ohio. And Ohio State University Extension has four main program areas: agriculture and natural resources, right, that have connections and provide a lot of resources and trainings to the local farmers. Family and consumer sciences, so nutrition education, uh, health education, uh, community development, and then the fourth, which most people are familiar with, is 4-H youth development. So that's a great resource to use to think about finding ways to purchase local foods in your area of Ohio. But then, other important partners, I'll be highlighting the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce, the Ohio Department of Health, of course, local county and city health departments, school districts, and then nonprofit organizations. So again, looking at the census, we know that from the last census results, over 2,000 schools reported taking part in Farm to School in some way. Nearly 50% of those, 622, were purchasing local foods and serving local foods. I want to highlight some of our largest school districts in Ohio, but of course, as I said, there are farm to school successes across the state, big and small. And so while I don't have the time to mention all of the great efforts that are going on across our state, just know that, you're going to hear about the big districts, but there are schools everywhere that are changing the school meal experience for kids. There are kids that are going home and asking for their parents to buy the local foods that they got to taste test at their schools. So let me highlight Cincinnati Public Schools. So in 2019, the Cincinnati School Board unanimously voted to adopt what's called the Good Food Purchasing Program. They found that in 2017, they had spent $7.7 million on food. And adopting the Good Food Purchasing Program was a big step towards spending these dollars on both, healthier, fresh, delicious food for the kids and supporting strong local economies, fair working conditions, sustainability, etc. On the right here are the principles of the Good Food Purchasing program. So all couched within the context of equity, accountability, and transparency. So they set out to support local and community-based economies, environmental sustainability, valued workforce, animal welfare, and community health and nutrition. At our last Farm to School network meeting in September, we had the honor of hearing from Lauren Marlowe, who's manager of nutrition at Cincinnati Public Schools, and Jessica Shelley, the director of student dining. And they shared updates along with Christine Cahill-Dosch from Green Umbrella. Green Umbrella had recently completed a case study to show the impacts and to show how the Good Food Purchasing Program really impacts farmers and students. And so Jessica Shelley shared with us parts of that case study. And you can see here some of the data from that. Just going to move something on my screen here. All right, they are a K-12 school district with an internally managed full-service dining service. The average meals served annually since 2020 are 5 million meals annually, with an annual food budget since 2020 of $9.5 million. Of that $9.5 million annual budget, their average spent on locally on foods is 18%. So nearly 20% of that 9 million. And Jessica Shelley pointed out that these numbers are averages between 2020 and 2024. She said, of course, the amounts spent were much lower during COVID. So she assures us that now these numbers, these percents are going to be even higher annually. But 18% of the 9 million spent uh, on local foods. 33 local food producers are supported through Cincinnati Public Schools. 46,000 pounds of CO2 greenhouse gas emissions prevented and $6.8 million spent on farms and vendors within a 250-mile radius. So what they report to the Good Food Purchasing Program and to meet their targets is foods that are procured from within 250 miles, but they tell us that many of their vendors are within an even smaller radius. So they purchase from Reader Dairy, which sources dairy products from farms within a 150-mile radius. And Cincinnati Public Schools gets their grains, their breads from Klosterman Bakery, which is a mere 4 miles from Cincinnati Public Schools. So it's really impressive what they've done. They have changed their bid processes. They have changed what's served on the line. They really try to fit their meals to fit student preferences, and this includes adding a complete vegan and vegetarian line to each school's meal daily. Many of you know that in Farm to School, we like to do a harvest of the month and feature a local food on the tray, a different locally grown or raised, or processed food each month. Cincinnati Public Schools goes well above and beyond that. They have a harvest of the week in which they feature a local food. And Jessica Shelley was sharing with us that during Farm to School Month in Ohio, their harvest of the week is not just local, but it is indeed an Ohio grown food each week in October. So how exciting is that? Here are some additional highlights that Lauren Marlowe shared with us. So she really talked up the partnership that they have with each of their vendors, their ability to their menu planning is very flexible to maximize the use of local produce. And I have on the left here, this is the purchasing report and metrics that was put together by Feed Our Future. I'll talk about them in a couple minutes. This was a report out on the last two school years ago. So the 23-24 school year, this is over $2 million spent on local foods. It lists all the many local partners of Cincinnati Public Schools. And I don't know if you can see here the dollar amounts, but really substantial across the food tray. 176,000 spent on fruit, 158,000 on vegetables, over 1.4 million on dairy, 285,000 on grains. And all totaling over $2 million for Cincinnati Public Schools. So speaking of Feed Our Future, Feed Our Future is a collaborative up in Cuyahoga County, and they are indeed the true leaders in supporting farm to school efforts in Ohio. I put here, if you'd like more information on this, please go to their website, the Feed Our Future website, or contact Allison Patrick at the Cuyahoga County Board of Health. You'll see on their website, Feed Our Future connects schools with producers. They are the boots on the ground. They are providing a wide variety of resources and real supports for helping Farmers navigate the selling process, and schools finding local producers, and kids getting to taste test and eat local foods. I'll give you a few examples of their work, but take a look at their report that was just posted earlier this month. They work with 71 participating school districts. They support 27 local producers, over $900,000 invested into the local economy for this year, 24-25. In the past 10 years, they have over they have 3.4 million and 3,000 kids engaged in their Totally Tasty events where they're doing food tasting. 729, over 729,000 pounds of local food served. So amazing work up in Cuyahoga County, and they have partners across the state, as I said, working with Cincinnati Public Schools and other districts. Here's some examples of the programs and resources of Feed Our Future. So their new Food Leaders Alliance. This is a food advocacy work where they engage middle school students in leadership and activities in farm to school. These are student engaged taste testing events, agriculture education, helping to helping to advise on what the kids want in their school meals. Then they have a harvest bar tool. So this is a training for food service directors to go take the traditional the salad bar to a whole new level and turn it into a harvest bar where they're serving local foods to the kids in their meals. As you can see here, participants are provided with planograms, recipes, cost information, marketing tools, labels, all kinds of things to make that harvest bar a success. I remember when I started with this, there were school districts that were getting rid of their salad bars because of various reasons, and staff thought it was too much work. And now there's all kinds of renewed excitement around offering these harvest bars and including local foods. Another great resource from Feed Our Future is that they do a cost share program. So they look at, what are the barriers for for schools, for farmers who want to make that buying and selling connection. And then they offer financial support. They offer technical assistance. They offer, for example, they help walk schools and farmers through the audit process, through the third-party audits, and they provide some funding for equipment to make these selling connections feasible and to make it possible for the schools to process and serve the local foods. Totally Tasty events I mentioned, they offer taste tests. You can see here they're hosting 2 taste tests a week, each week at schools. You saw that they involved 3,000 kids in tasting local foods over the past school year. I would recommend taking a closer look at all of this on their website. They have posted local purchasing reports, and that's where the data came from that I shared earlier. They also have a purchasing report for each of their participating districts, so check that out. And then finally, additionally, they were recently selected as part of the USDA's Project Scales. So they are looking at ways, they've enlisted 3 school distribution partners. Who will be adapting value chain coordination framework for local procurement. And 2 school district partners will be piloting some new value added products for schools. So again, some real innovation, real leaders in Ohio. We are continually impressed with their work and are so grateful for their leadership in making these strides in farm to school. So speaking of resources for buying and selling relationships, I want to highlight the buying and selling guides that were produced out of Ohio State University Extension. This was in partnership with a cross-sector Farm to Early Care and Education Coalition. We We got some seed funding from ASPHN, the Association of State Public Health Nutritionists, to do some pilots in which we offered some incentive funds for early care and education sites in various locations in Ohio to explore what are some successful avenues for purchasing local, what would be some best practices. We collected a lot of data. We did interviews with the purchasers at the early care and education sites, and then we worked very closely with that cross-sector coalition and we looked at other similar guides across other states, and we developed these step-by-step guides for if you're an early care and education site, um, what are the best practices for finding local, for buying local, and if you are a farmer, if you are a producer, wanting to sell your products to early care and education providers, what do you need to know about their requirements? What are some best practices for that? Those guides are available in print. They are also free in a PDF version at our website, and that is given on the slide right there. Each of these, what I love about these guides is each one of them contains a decision tree. So it's very easy to just flip to that decision tree page and follow the questions for what kind of site you have, what types of meals you're looking to serve, what your capacity is, and then it tells you where you can start. Same with the farmer. You look at what do you have to sell, what's your capacity, what are your delivery options, and then it tells you where you might start in making that connection with early care centers. So those are great resources to know about. We're taking the next step in that area in terms of supporting procurement in early care and education sites. We did the research with the ECE sites wanting to buy, and we just wrapped up a survey of local producers wanting to sell to early care sites. We're in the process of analyzing that data, and we're very actively using that to develop further communications, further ways to connect those local farmers with those great markets of the early care and education. Okay, next component of farm to school, and that is supporting schools to better serve local foods. Again, we have a really great range of partners helping us to do this. I'll be highlighting the work of the Ohio Department of Workforce and Education and Workforce, Ohio Department of Health, along with school districts and local businesses, including Pasanic Partners. So in Ohio, the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce administers the USDA school breakfast and lunch program. And as such, they are huge supporters of farm to school. They have greatly increased their capacity to support these efforts for schools to purchase, serve, and teach kids about local foods. Here's one great thing that they're working on now as part of the School Nutrition Association's Expo. The Ohio Department of Education and Workforce is offering a local lane, a whole section of this expo dedicated to helping school districts, school food authorities across Ohio both purchase local and then know how to serve it. So they're covering the cost and the registration and for the exhibitors. They are offering an opportunity to connect local food producers with local food buyers. There's a great range of products and farmers represented at that event. And then they go beyond that. They offer the procurement training and do demonstrations and offer recipes and all kinds of resources, education, and support. So we are so grateful for our partners at Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. And here's an event that they are offering this year. It's so exciting, and uh, it's just so fun, and so offers so many opportunities for kids. So as you can see, it's a student chef showcase. They're offering students an opportunity to learn about what's grown locally and then develop their own recipes that can be adopted into school meals. So this is for teams of students, sixth grade through 12th grade. They want recipes that feature at least one harvest of the month ingredient, and they specify those harvest of the month ingredients. And then teams are invited to attend the competition and receive a stipend of $500 and do a private lesson with Chef Jim Warner. Uh, I do want to see if you take a look at the arrow at the bottom of the screen, that is Munch. It's their school meal mascot who goes to districts, to school events all around the state. And we'll be talking about Munch a little more. But I think what a great way to get kids excited about the culinary arts, to help them learn exactly, what local foods are available and how they can be really appealing in their school meals. So I mentioned Chef Jim Warner. He's a recent addition to the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. Many years of experience as a chef with the Ohio State University Medical Center. And he's now working with child nutrition sponsors, food service staff, students, families all across the state to incorporate fresh local foods. He really brings a lot of uh, knowledge, skills, and excitement around local foods. So they have a mobile teaching kitchen. They're doing hands-on cooking demonstrations, from taste tests to just showing knife skills. And as I said, numerous other supports for how to best serve local foods in our schools. So really excited to see the capacity of the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. And then, as I mentioned, we have a number of local businesses supporting these efforts. Marine Pasanic with Pasanic Partners. Pasanic Partners is a school nutrition and operations consulting firm. They they provide a whole range of resources. They've developed cycle menus. They do trainings. They offer professional development with the goal of both nutrition and financial success for schools. They have really expanded their capacity to support early care and education sites across our state. They have numerous resources for the early care settings. Here's just an example of a few. So they offer, as I said, the registered dietitian consulting. So this is, specifics on uh, well, information on general eating, but then specifics like managing picky eaters, doing allergy management, disease-specific conditions. They offer a whole recipe library, and they're so knowledgeable about what are kid-friendly recipes, and then how can those recipes be credited for CFP so that of course, so those sites will be reimbursed. Uh, they offer cooking classes for the staff and for families. And then to go beyond, they literally, take it home through educational flyers, really great, appealing, and full of great information for families, ways to take the learning from the classroom to the home through these flyers. So, it's resources like this that can lighten the load a little bit for those are really busy early care and education professionals, and make all of this great local food education and serving possible. So, and then finally, supporting the teaching about local foods. And this, of course, a big part of teaching about local foods is engaging kids in growing the food. Um, when I started in this role of working with Farm to School, we were hearing across Ohio lots of interest in engaging kids in growing foods and in school gardens. And at the same time, we were hearing across the board, but I don't know how, I don't know where to get started. And teachers were seeing their biggest obstacle as seasonality. We would hear from teachers that they're familiar with gardening from June to August, but they teach September through May, and so those seasons just didn't fit. Um, and we recognize, there's such great potential because the um, the research about farm to school and primarily farm to school that includes garden-based learning is that kids involved at schools that engage them in school gardens they can identify more fruits and vegetables. They have a greater efficacy around knowing how they would want to eat fruits and vegetables. They have a greater intent to eat fruits and vegetables at home. And one thing I really, really love is that kids who are engaged in farm to school, and especially in school gardens, are more willing to try new foods, just to try new foods, both at school and at home. And then ultimately, there are some studies that show that kids involved in farm to school programs do consume um, a significantly higher amount of fruits and vegetables. Um, so back to, that teachers were saying, we don't know how to garden with our kids. We don't know where to get started, and it's something that doesn't fit our school year. I had the honor of working with the team at Ohio State University Extension, along with the farm to school coordinator at Ohio's largest school district, Columbus City Schools. And we set out to develop a guide for teachers to help them to implement garden-based learning September through May. We started out with focus groups that asked them what kind of resources would they need and what kind of information would they want and what form would it be helpful. We put together a draft. We had it originally set out to do all informational materials online, and the teachers told us right up front that they would love to have a book, a guide, and it would be great if it could be formatted like a calendar so they could follow along throughout the school year. So we developed this, what we call the calendar guide for teachers to implement school year growing to actually harvest, um, grow, tend, raise, harvest, and taste test a different food each 9 months of the school year. And you can see on your slide, September, they're harvesting radishes already. In October, it's herbs. November, they're harvesting bok choy. In December, uh, uh, um, we have more herbs. January, we have greens, so spinach, February, kale. Then we have lettuce, tomatoes, and collards. Um, we do this by taking teachers step by step through 3 growing methods. We have seed starting with LED lights that can be done in the classroom, raised bed gardening with season extension, and indoor hydroponics. So as I said, we developed the calendar guide for this. We put it in the hands of about 50 teachers at Columbus City Schools, and they gave us feedback. They did surveys each month. They came in for focus groups twice that school year. We took all of their input, their suggestions. We did hundreds of revisions and edits, and then finally published the guide in spring of 2024. And since its publication, we have sold over 1,500 of the guides. We have trained or offered an GTS orientation to over 2,000 individuals, 2,000 educators. About a third of these are at the local level. We've done state level trainings and reached over nearly 600 educators. We've done national conferences where we've reached over 200 educators. We've done international presentations reaching over 50 educators. And then we know that we have well over 500 educators who've completed a GTS training online. So really excited to see the all the interest in school year growing across across Central Ohio, across all of Ohio, across the country, and ultimately reaching school districts, school settings internationally. So we know that uh, because we know there's such a great interest and desire uh, for doing the school year garden, we have we're doing everything we can to make these materials widely available at no cost. The calendar guide, the printed version, is available for sale through the OSU Extension website. And we have a series of about 20 online modules, which had been moved to a site that had a fee. And so we've recently been working to put all of those modules, all of those videos also on our web page so that they can all be accessed completely for free by anyone. And trying to convey as much of the information from the guidebook as possible through those modules so that we eliminate the cost. But I encourage everyone to check that out. As you saw on the previous slide, we do offer trainings across Ohio. Happy to come out to schools, early care settings, and provide an in-person interactive training where we're actually, moistening soil mix and doing the seeding, planting the seeds, doing the thinning, pollinating tomato plants in the hydroponic unit. But recognizing that we can't get to everyone, we did we do have a professionally filmed version of the training. It's available also at that same website, and it's available on demand. We have outlined it. We put it together so that it can be self-paced for an individual instructor, or if a school, if an early care center wants to do an in-person training, they can play parts of um, that recording and then stop. And we do have there's a transcript available online, and they can do the interactive components while interspersing it with that online training. So trying to make it as widely available and useful to instruct to teachers as we can. But we're really excited about that new resource. Just within the last couple of weeks, we received notice from OCRA, the Ohio Child Care Resource and Referral Agency, that we have been approved to offer that for professional development credit for early care and education providers in Ohio. There was already, as you can see on this slide, there's already two online versions. There's a early care and education, just farm to early care and education general overview that's available for ECE providers to get professional development credit. And then the growing teachers throughout the seasons, a 1 hour Ohio approved online version. But we now have an approved 2.5 hour, so they get more, they get 2.5 credits by completing that in-person training. And it's really a lot of fun. And I've been told again and again by instructors who take that training that it's one of their favorite trainings they've ever done, that they feel empowered, they feel like they can go back and actually implement gardening with the little ones and engage them in such fun learning activities about how their food grows. So I'll take just a little while now to go beyond the three components of the purchasing, serving, and teaching to general farm to school promotions. How do we support farm to school across Ohio, and how can we get the word out and engage more teachers, more food service providers, more kids, more families, more farmers? The first one I want to mention is that farm to school grants are back. The USDA Patrick Leahy Farm to School grants have been posted and are now, the applications are open. They are due December 5th. Please note that some communications had gone out previously with an incorrect deadline, saying December 10th, but they are due December 5th. So don't let that catch you up. These are some of the biggest, most robust farm to school grants available nationwide. You can see here that the objective for this current funding stream is to improve access to local foods in eligible community nutrition program sites through farm to community nutrition programming, including they want to support local sourcing, agriculture education efforts, taste tests, school gardens, field trips, all the great things we've just been talking about. These are some of the few farm to school grants that support farm to school positions that you can hire farm to school program coordinators or specialists with these funds. So there's still time. Get your farm to school partners together. Take a look at grants.gov. School districts and nonprofit organizations in Ohio have historically been some of the most successful. We have typically been among the states with the most Patrick Leahy Farm to School grant recipients. So take a look at that funding funding source that's now out there and available. Speaking of opportunities that are currently available, the National Farm to Cafeteria Conference is back this year. This is hosted by the National Farm to School Network. National Farm to School Network has been around since about 2008. They are just what it sounds like. They are our organization that networks farm to school efforts across all 50 states and the territories. They excel in connecting, networking our farm to school efforts. They excel in providing evaluation and research data about the benefits of farm to school, and they really excel in policy efforts and bringing together small P policy efforts and then the big P policy. What's going on in terms of state level legislation that supports farm to school efforts, and how can we learn from other states and implement more policy to support farm to school efforts. So with that said, they are offering a national conference. This is the first since their conference was held right here in the state of Ohio in Cincinnati in 2018. They had planned a conference for 2020. Of course, that had to be canceled, and then their conferences had been postponed. And now we are set to all meet together in Albuquerque in early December. Please go to the website you see here at the top of your screen to learn more about that conference opportunity. You'll be glad you did. Okay, in terms of state and regional promotions, we offer three main promotions throughout the year here in Ohio. With this being Farm to School Month, we do a great apple crunch. We encourage classrooms, schools, cafeterias, organizations, workplaces, families to all get ideally a locally grown apple or some kind of locally grown produce, but in October it's apples, and learn about local foods, highlight local foods, and then of course crunch. I'll crunch into the apple at the same time, take some photos, post them to social media, and raise awareness, knowledge, and excitement around local foods. Fun fact is that the the leaders at Cincinnati Public Schools report that the Apple Crunch was their segue into local buying. So when I talked about them adopting the good food purchasing program and changing their bid language, changing how they serve foods, adding all those wonderful local foods, supporting so many local producers, that all started with an Apple Crunch. So if you're not doing a lot of farm to school activities and initiatives, I encourage you to start small and this is a great place to start with the Apple Crunch. Register at this website at this Go link, and your Apple Crunch will be counted, and you'll receive an Apple Crunch guide. So we do an Apple Crunch in October. In summer, for the summer feeding sites, the highlight is a cucumber crunch. Same concept. We encourage summer feeding sites to procure some locally grown cucumbers, teach kids about cucumbers, teach kids more about other local foods, and then have a crunch event in which they all crunch into a cucumber, take photos, get them up on social media, and share excitement around locally grown foods. So many things available to our summer feeding sites. And then finally, our third main promotion is a smoothie slurp. So doing a smoothie slurp allows us to feature local in the middle of winter because it obviously includes dairy, which is a year-round local food. We encourage schools to add maybe some frozen locally grown berries or some fresh locally grown greens, like perhaps throwing in some spinach or kale leaves in with their smoothie. Our wonderful partner, the American Dairy Association Mid-East, is just one of the is our enthusiastic partner in the Smoothie Slurp, and they go beyond promoting making smoothies to actually providing funding for schools to get smoothie equipment for getting all the things that are needed in that school cafeteria to make it possible to serve these batch smoothies. And they provide wonderful promotions throughout January, February about serving smoothies and meeting school meal requirements. So June Wed is your contact at American Dairy Association Mid-East. I want to feature just a couple of the other wonderful ways that the American Dairy Association promotes farm to school. When you think about teaching kids about local foods, of course, we can bring the gardening into the classroom. We can grow tomatoes inside the classroom. We can have them grow spinach and collards and kale and bok choy out in their raised bed. But not every school can have a cow. So the American Dairy Association offers an Adopt a Cow program in which classrooms do just that. They adopt a cow virtually, and they have regular communications with the farmers who are raising those cows, and they get to see physically, how the cow is doing, its growth, how it's being cared for, etc. And here's one of their farmers that's featured in the Adopt a Cow program, Megan. She's a nurse as well, and now she's working at her family's dairy farm. If you're wondering, well, how many kids and how many classrooms get to adopt a cow? For the 2024-2025 school year, over 138,000 students were reached with the Adopt a Cow program. Nearly 4,000 learning environments, right? Most of those traditional classrooms, but also Adopt a Cow is reaching our students in homeschool environments, in early care and education sites, and after school programs, things like that. So what a wonderful way to expand kids' knowledge of agriculture and how their foods are grown and raised and produced. American Dairy Association offers numerous supports for ways to serve healthy, locally grown foods, just like the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. Very knowledgeable on helping schools comply with the current USDA meal patterns. I think it was Jessica Shelley who pointed out to us recently that when it comes to government agency, NASA has the most regulations, and the school meal program is second to that. That there are numerous regulations to be familiar with, to follow, and we are so thankful for organizations like American Dairy that can help schools with solutions like this, the smart swaps. So how to swap out. Um, there's maybe some current recipes with kid tested, kid approved, newer recipes that have lower added sugar, but the kids still love ways to offer better breakfast items. That's traditionally been a challenge. And then they pair all of that with training videos and support materials for recipe preparation and easy and effective implementation. Uh, the in terms of promoting farm to school broadly across Ohio, we are really grateful for this a partnership that we have with the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce puts together a monthly, or excuse me, a regular quarterly newsletter, which we contribute to. Ohio State University Extension provides input to that. And then the Ohio Department of Agriculture coordinates the dissemination. And so this newsletter goes out quarterly to all of our school food authorities, as well as other interested stakeholders in all regions of our state. And that is just loaded with great information, current information and opportunities in the farm to school world. I encourage you, if you're not already receiving that, to email Ohio Proud at the Department of Agriculture and getting on that listserv. Here's another great promotion. This is hosted by the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce and their summer feeding sites. They do a farm to summer challenge. And these badges are just so adorable. The Gold Gourd Award, the Silver Snow Pea Award, and the Bronze Bean Award. And it recognizes summer feeding sites that take part in activities, including actually having the kids eat local, so serving locally grown produce, and that can include the locally grown cucumbers and doing a crunch day event. Growing, so participating in garden activities, taking agriculture related field trips, hosting a gardening professional at the site, and then engaging the kids. So engaging them through social media, local media coverage, a newsletter, a website, other sort of engagement that involves communicating, promoting, highlighting their local food efforts. So this has just been a fun way to get kids excited about local foods. And then the Farm to School Month promotions that Ohio Department of Education and Workforce are doing currently, they are some of the biggest supporters of the Great Apple Crunch. They have Apple Crunch stickers that they send out that really raise the excitement about doing the Apple Crunch in cafeterias across the state. They are encouraging schools to invite special guests for their farm to school events. And as I mentioned earlier in the presentation and pointed out, Munch the fox, that's their mascot. And Munch goes out and visits with the kids, Munch the fox. And they are also promoting partnering with teachers to incorporate food-based lessons into the classroom. So they've added, in addition to the books, videos, and lesson plans that they've added this Ohio Harvest of the Month open space page where teachers can easily access them. And as I mentioned, the local lane at the School Nutrition Association Expo, and Chef Jim Warner going out to provide culinary education and other events. All right, here are these are the individuals you could reach out to if you want more information. Either go to the Farm to School webpage at the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce, or reach out individually to Hannah Hart, Elizabeth Douglas, or Chef Jim Warner himself. I want to let you know about a very current opportunity. This is so exciting. Our partners at Green Umbrella and Cincinnati Public Schools have been invited to present an upcoming webinar in collaboration with the National Farm to School Network, Cultivating Futures so Green Careers Begin with School Gardens. It's coming up at the end of the month, October 30th at noon. It will be on Zoom. I have the registration link on this slide. It might be easier just to search Green Umbrella, their events page, and there's a link you can just click on there. So the uh, Cultivating Futures webinar is it's an interactive session that for exploring pathways that connect garden-based learning with green careers. This is careers in agribusiness, and they'll be sharing insights into industry-based credentials. Cincinnati Public Schools is a real leader in this area. They're doing things like getting GAP certification for their large school gardens so that those foods can be incorporated into school meals and used in other ways because they have that GAP certification. Few years back, a group worked together here. They're listed at the top of the slide. We worked with some experts in agricultural economics to try to estimate what the potential impacts would be of offering a local food incentive. We were hopeful about a year ago. There had been funds released by the USDA. We were in line to receive, I believe it was about 23 million from USDA, specifically to incentivize school districts to purchase local foods. Those funds were ultimately canceled early in 2025. However, that doesn't change the potential that we know we have in the state of Ohio. So, as I mentioned early on, at least 66% of our school food authorities are involved in farm to school in some way. At least half of them are purchasing local foods. The 66% is up from 55% in the 2018-2019 farm to school census. So interest, enthusiasm, momentum are all increasing across Ohio, which is really, really exciting to see. We know that when the census was done in 2018, 2019, there was an average of 81,000 per district among the districts that bought local. That was their average annual spending. And then it totaled over $16 million spent on local foods across Ohio now, or nearly 16 million. They did not report a total dollar amount, but we just, you look at the trajectory of, the increase in districts that are involved, the increase in the percent, the kinds of capacity that we see in districts like Cincinnati Public Schools, Cleveland Public Schools. We have to know that we're well over 16 million annually on local foods and purchases from schools. How can you learn more? How can people get involved in farm to school? I tried to give you examples of some of the great farm to school initiatives, the great organizations that are taking leadership, that have the ability to offer you training and resources. I also encourage you to join our Farm to School Network meetings quarterly. We hear from our state level partners. We hear about local successes. We find ways to network, to benefit from the experiences of districts that are involved in farm to school, of organizations that are selling to schools. The next Farm to School Network meeting will be December 11th. It's held on Zoom. go to our Farm to School website to get more information about that. They're on the second Thursday of um, uh, December, March, and June and September each year. So these are the dates going forward for the next year. Please join us for the Ohio Farm to School Network meetings. As I said, you can get more information on our Farm to School website, farmtoschool.osu.edu. Uh, Go to the websites of the partners that were mentioned and find us. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram. And if you would like to reach out individually to our Farm to School team, here are our names and contact information. And with that, I'll just see if there are any questions.
Thanks, Carol. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually allow everybody to unmute themselves and ask questions directly if they'd like to. I know we missed a question in the chat box as you were going through your presentation, Carol. And so there was one from Jenny, and I'm not sure exactly what event Jenny or project she might be referencing, but she asked for specific dates for when something was going to happen. So Jenny,
Okay,
did give you permission to talk if you want to let us know exactly which
great.
event you were referring to for the dates.
I am looking into that. I've taken notes and there were several conferences, so I will find that note.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we got your question addressed. And I know Carol's going to share her PowerPoint
Yes.
after as well. So I know lots of the links will be in there for whichever one you were most interested in. All right. So everybody has permission to talk. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions. I know, Carol, I will say there's a lot of great information in there, and maybe folks need just some time to digest. I think there were
I,
there's way more farm to school programs or, promotions than I was aware of, right? So I just did an Apple Crunch last week, which was fun. But you shared way more information than I was even aware of, and I work so closely with you sometimes. So I think it's just a lot for people to take in.
yeah.
But yeah, we'll give it a minute and see if anybody has
Hmm.
anything that comes to mind. I do want to just pop the registration for our next virtual convening in the chat box before people maybe start to hop off. We are hosting a virtual convening again for November, and that's going to be a part two to our tariffs discussion. So if you joined us for our virtual convening, I believe it was in April on tariffs, it's going to be a part two to that. So just wanted to pop that in the chat box while we were kind of stewing on questions for Carol.
Thanks, Amanda. I know that's going to be a fantastic convening about tariffs.
Jenny says it was the School
Ah,
Nutrition um, Association conference.
yes. Let me find that for you. But yes, yeah, I agree, Amanda. This is a lot to take in. I can also share with you when I share these slides, I can share information from our network meeting in September. Uh, and which will have a lot more details about the Good Food Purchasing Program, Feed Our Future, all the great opportunities from the Ohio Department of Workforce and Education and Workforce. Yeah, I feel like I just barely skimmed the surface of all the great things that are going on across Ohio with Farm to School. But the School Nutrition Association Conference is hmm, I don't have the dates for that. We'll have, we'll have to follow up with you on that, Amanda.
Okay, sounds good. I can put that in the email. Or Jenny, I've got your email. We can get that information over to you.
Mhm.
So
Thank you, ladies.
you're welcome. So I don't know if we've got any questions, and if not, that's okay. So kind of last call for questions for Carol, and again, you'll get kind of all her materials, and you'll be able to follow up with her one-on-one if there's something specific you want to know. All right.
Chat.
Well, I think we can go ahead and wrap up for the day. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you to Carol for walking us through all that information. I know a lot of it is, easy to maybe replicate or apply. So looking forward to seeing who might be using some of the information you shared today, Carol. And I know Carol loves to know who is working on Farm to School. So if you decide to move forward with any of these initiatives, please let her know. She loves to keep track of and see the growth of Farm to School in Ohio. So. Thank you guys so much for
Mhm.
joining us today. Thank you, Carol, and we'll get this recording out to you sometime next week. We hope you guys have a good weekend, and thanks again. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.